dedicate this memorial, we do so with the hope this will be a place of contemplation, peace, and healing. The Vietnam War is the war of my generation. For all of the veterans here today, I wish to say, no matter how you served, no matter when you served, and no matter where you served, I owe you a debt of gratitude.
I'm Steve Bates, and I'm the president of the Vietnam War Memorial Fund. Today, we dedicated Phase 1 of the Vietnam War Memorial on the Oregon State Capitol grounds. It was actually a dream of a Vietnam veteran back in 2015 when it was iterated to me. In 2017, we actually started working on that dream, and we met with some legislators and actually formed the nonprofit organization.
These are state park lands. This is a sacred place. The sacredness of civic engagement that you see in the halls of the Capitol, to have this memorial here on these grounds, I think means so much to Oregonians. And I'm proud to be governor today to be here for this dedication.
The Vietnam War Memorial is a symbol of healing, an honor of the fallen, and a call to remember. Vietnamese Americans have worked hard to earn a living and contribute their efforts in the new land that we consider our second homeland.
In the city of Salem, there are memorials to every war fought from the Civil War. And at the basement of the Capitol, there was a memorial to the Civil War. There's a memorial to every other war except for the Vietnam War. And with that oversight and the way that the Vietnam veterans were treated when they came home, that was sort of another slap in the face.
It's hard to believe it's been more than 60 years since the United States became involved in direct military conflict in Vietnam. For nearly 10 years before that time, American military advisors were in country as well, assisting the South Vietnamese military. More than 58,000 American servicemen lost their lives, most from combat actions, while more than 300,000 were wounded in action. Between 1955 and the mid-70s, 2.7 million Americans served in Vietnam. Nearly 800 Oregonians lost their lives.
When I think about this dedication, I think about my stepfather, Corporal Donald Perky, who was 17 when he went to Vietnam. He earned 2 Bronze Stars and was a rifle sharpshooter. He might have returned home physically. He was lucky in that way, but he was a changed man and he was never the same mentally. He is buried along with other comrades at Willamette National Cemetery. And this also reminds me of a quote: not everyone who lost their life in Vietnam died there, and not everyone who came home from Vietnam ever left there. So today we say, welcome home, and the VFW will never forget those that served in Vietnam.
When we're done here, I want you to walk over to this column, any one of these columns, and pick a name at random. I want you to walk up and touch the granite, the smoothness of the granite, and to run your fingers across the letters that are incised into that granite. You need to accept the spirit of this man who died for our country into your heart so that he is never forgotten, so he can live on in each and every one of us.
The design of this memorial was to be like no other. The steering committee chose to combine art, nature, and tradition. There is art in the design and the sculpture. The trees and plantings are the nature, and the names engraved in granite stone is the tradition. Our motto has always been, let us honor our warriors and remember the fallen. The series of granite columns looks like a solid wall from a distance, but up close is a wall with spaces, holes if you will, representing our society during the Vietnam War, divided and fractured. This is unlike the solid walls that you see over on the World War II Memorial to the north, which has a solid wall representing the solid support our nation had for our soldiers fighting in Europe and the Pacific. The names on these columns are individuals who lived and died for our country. They are not just names on granite. These 790 names represent a person, a story, and a family. These names represent those who were a son, a dad, a brother, an uncle, a nephew. They left Oregon and their moms and dads, sisters, brothers, wives, sons, and daughters to serve. Their family gave them their name, and that name is foremost because family is the tie that binds. Their rank is secondary. That's why when you look at their names, their name is first and their rank follows. This is to honor the Gold Star families who gave them those names.
I'm Libby Ruth. I'm the sculptor for this monument, so I designed and sculpted it in synthetic cast bronze. I was asked to depict the returning soldier, so I wanted to show a man who had come home and was really struggling with everything he experienced over there, and who's maybe not even able to talk about it, and he's feeling really isolated and alienated and struggling with PTSD and who knows what. And it's kind of the point that we don't know what. You can see that he's suffering, but we don't really know what he went through. So I wanted to capture kind of a relatable person. And it's hard to ignore that he's struggling. And I used the wall to kind of block him from the backside, so when you walk up to him, you don't really know what to expect, and you can't really see his face. And that's where you walk all the way around and stand immediately in front of him, almost as if you're looking into a mirror. So it kind of forces a really direct interaction, which is what these guys didn't experience. People will just walk past them and still do, without really acknowledging that they're struggling with something, that they're going through something, and that we don't know what it is, and they don't really owe us their story. We should acknowledge and respect them just because they had an experience.
By memorializing the fallen, we honor all who served. The welcome home columns and the sculpture entitled A Soldier's Return speak to the lack of respect the returning Vietnam veterans received. To our Vietnam veterans, welcome home. To the state of Oregon, as the president of the Vietnam War Memorial Fund, I present to you the Oregon Vietnam Veterans Memorial on the Oregon State Capitol grounds.
I think this is going to do a lot for not only the state of Oregon, but the city of Salem. It's long in coming and well deserved. I have an issue with the fact that we had 3 million Americans serve in Vietnam. Almost 1 million of them are dead now. And so they weren't around to share in the accolades.
So from lessons learned, President Ronald Reagan even said, even at this late date, we can all agree we have learned one valuable lesson. That young Americans must never again be sent to fight and die unless we are all prepared to let them win. So let this memorial be for the healing of the mind and spirit, for those that returned, for those that wake up in the middle of the night in a cold sweat, and for those battle buddies that came home and asked, why me? And for those that just can't shake the demons of war, and for those children and grandchildren in the future who can come and reflect on their heroism of their relatives. So for our brothers and sisters who did not return home, fair winds and following seas. Thank you. Semper Fi.